Hey everybody, welcome to the Logan Power Show. It's me, your host, Calvin Logan, and I know that you thankful for all of you who have been watching us, supporting us. Definitely go to our website today, www.theloganpowershow.us. Hey, definitely donate today if you want to be a guest. Email us at theloganpowershow@gmail.com. We here at the Logan Power Show want to keep you informed, but our main focus right now, we're focused on education. So another education segment here at the Logan Power Show. This is her first time here at the Logan Power Show, and she is running for Charleston County School Board for the area of North Charleston, South Carolina. She's the one and only Miss Kristen French. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Logan. It's Kristen French.
Kristen French, yes, ma'am. It's good to have you here, ma'am. How's everything?
Pretty good. It's been very busy. There's been out at the polls every day. There's a lot of people voting. It's very exciting.
Yes, ma'am. It is a lot of people is voting. Um, just to be on the same page with you, I know you're very active in the community, and I see you always putting yourself out and about in the community. What made you decide to run to be on the school board?
Well, had not really planned to run, but when I saw the people that were running for the seat, and I knew that a couple of them were associated with a coalition for kids, I was really concerned that we didn't have another choice to speak up for keeping our public schools public. And I also realized that in the dynamics of this race, that there's a lot of anti-incumbent fever, and whether or not that's warranted for the North area incumbents, I did feel like we need another voice. We need another choice for people to look at. I feel very strongly that our public schools should stay public and not be privatized. So that was a big push for me to jump in. And I've followed the school board for a long time. I have kids in school, so it's important to me to make sure that we're providing quality education to all the kids in our district.
Got it. Now, based off the district, going to be in North Charleston, very populated district, 100,000 plus people. A lot of kids going to school by at least 30-40%, looking about at least 20 plus thousand kids sort of, populating in the community. What do you want to see implemented your first day on the job? What do you want to see get done?
Well, it's a hard choice to make, especially in these times, because with COVID, everything is really chaotic right now. And I think that that's also exposing a lot of the racial disparities that we already knew were there. It's harder for people to get the choices they want in terms of virtual versus in person. And I would really like to make sure on day one that we're not going to keep changing kids' teachers constantly, because that's been happening since the beginning of the school year, both for students who've chosen completely virtual and for kids who are in face-to-face school. So that's something I really want to look at and make sure that we are doing things right based on the science, keeping our teachers and our staff and our children and their families all safe. It's a public health issue. So I definitely want to look at that right away. But there are some bigger, longer term issues that we need to work on quickly as well.
Got it. I mean, longer term issue, something we always want to focus on. Um, a quality education. There's a difference between public school, private school, even in charters, like three different sectors of levels of how you get a quality education. Um, since you said you want to focus more on the public sector, make sure they have the same benefit as the private sector. What are some things like you want to see sort of change? We already know the virtual is sort of a chaotic, and it's sort of like an up and down equalizer where they're not leveling, the level playing field is not the same due to the fact you got parents who are not economically have things in their pocket where they're able to be able to afford high quality internet. And so even if they even decided virtual is not even an option, or they can't even do in-person school due to the fact because in-person is taken up. So what are some things that you see, like just from talking to some of your the people out there, the voters, that you want to say, hey, I want to get this stuff done in North Charleston?
Well, I think you're probably aware that North Charleston really epitomizes the whole county in terms of the disparities that we see. We have, a couple of the top schools in the nation in North Charleston, but we also have, several schools that are called failing schools that just aren't doing the right service to the students. And so I feel that one of the first things that we need to be looking at is how most of those are neighborhood schools that aren't doing as well. And the reasons are that the choice system that we have has driven resources away from them. And some of the budget shortfalls that we've had in the past from the state level, but also because of some mismanagement of funds at the local level, for some reason, the district has chosen to harm the neighborhood schools the most. They've taken away reading coaches. They've taken away arts. They've taken away a lot of really important programs for children from K through 12 that help them to be readier to learn and to come to class, having that recess time or PE. So important to help kids, use their bodies and get their energy out so that then they can come in and be a little bit calmer and focus on learning. And the same thing with art. Art helps children to learn in different ways, and we need to have all of those resources available to kids at every school. We also need to look at reallocating the way we're spending the funding so it's more equitable. So if you have a school like Chicora Elementary or Mary Ford, and the school leadership team there is saying we need more mental health professionals in the school. We need more wraparound supports for the community because the parents are having to work 2 jobs, and we need more perhaps virtual health clinics and have dental clinics on site, not just for the kids but for their family members. If they're asking for those sort of things, the district should be jumping in and saying, here's how we're going to help you get them. Some of them are part of the budget. Great. If we need to work with partnerships like MUSC or other local healthcare providers, then let's make that happen. We can use telehealth. I know that MUSC does have some telehealth clinics around schools in the county. So, these are things that can happen. But the district needs to listen to what the schools are asking for instead of saying, no, you can't have that. We're going to take this away and we're going to give you, here's a really expensive reading module that you don't know how to use yet because we're not going to take the time to train you. And, why spend money on that when what's really needed is another support staff person in the school? These are the kind of things that I think we need to look at seriously. And it's all about listening.
Got it. Now, all about listening is very key, being a great active listener. Now, as you know, the thing is that you're an activist. So getting the opportunity, you're going to be on there. But there are people very conservative, and they're going to be thinking about, well, you mentioned Shakora, Mary Ford. Those are considered to be, me personally, I feel there's some great people there. But as you know, when scores come out, those are not your top schools. And those are schools to where neighboring schools means that, most parents got to go with the neighboring school. So that's where I'm going to go to. That's the only option I have. And now you're left with the fact if you either overcrowded. Now you think about instead of you having on average 15, 20 in the classroom to about 25, 30. Now with the pandemic, you can't do that, things got to be social distancing. So it's either, people going online, but most people who are in that particular area that you're mentioning, internet is not at its greatest due to the fact that parents can't afford it. And even if you want to go with the affordable home internet service, that's not going to be equitable in regards to speed and production when you want your child to get online. And there's a lot of parents that are relying on their cell phones and trying to think they can mobile hotspot their entire house, but it's not going to work. So how can we sort of bridge the gap? I know we have the Wi-Fi buses. put in those areas. But even that short stint of time is not going to cover for a full 8-hour day. There's a lot more things that need to be put in place. I know that there's the 10 million project that T-Mobile came out with. That's what it's supposed to help out the community, giving parents the mobile hotspot boxes to be able to help them in place. So what are some things you have besides, like, you have great ideas with regards to the health profession, definitely, because, healthy body means you're not going to be successful. I'll be able to stand. What are some things else that you had in mind that you want to see sort of change that
Okay.
I guess they're not doing?
Well, I do agree classroom size is key. And I know that teachers and parents both agree that we want to have lower numbers of students per teacher in a classroom. So we definitely need to look at that and use some research-based metrics for what's a good fit for kids to get the attention that they need. Do we need to have 2 teachers in the classroom, or do we need to have a smaller group of people in each classroom? And I'll tell you, even in COVID, although you may think that the capacity is reduced in a school like Chicora, based on the way they are measuring and using plexiglass in the classrooms, a lot of those classrooms are full now. They are at 80 or 100% capacity of what they would have been before the pandemic. And I don't think that that's healthy, because plexiglass does not stop the virus.
No,
It just,
doesn't.
it can float around a little bit, so that's a problem. But getting to the broadband, I think, but I do agree, we need to work on class size, and I think that's something that we can do in policy. And, of course, we're going to have to work on the funding for making it work, but a lot of that we're going to have to work with state legislators to make sure we're getting full funding we're supposed to be getting. For broadband access, I agree, this is a big problem, and I remember hearing about the school bus hotspots roaming around. I was like, that's not a good solution. We need a permanent solution here. Partly because I think even if when one day the pandemic hopefully will be over, we're hoping, but at that point, children shouldn't have to come to school when they're sick or contagious. And a lot of times they do, because attendance policies are so strict. Why not let a child learn from home if they're a little bit sick or asymptomatic but contagious? That way, if fewer people get sick at school, if they can tap in remotely, then they can still learn. Well, it's not quite the same as being there, but it's helpful to keep up. And then, so one of the things that I don't think people are aware of is that the state has gotten money to implement broadband all over the state, but the governor has held up those funds. So we need to pressure him to get to work on that. That's very important. It's beyond me why he didn't immediately start using those funds as soon as we realized we were going to have to close the schools, because we needed them in the spring. We needed all these kids to have access in the spring, and instead they let people just fall through the cracks. And how many thousands of kids they said were lost because they hadn't heard from them since the beginning of April. Like, that's not okay. So obviously, there's a lot of things we need to work on. I do think that because there are these funds at the state level, we need to really pressure the governor to open them up so that districts like ours can use them and leverage them to get local business partners to help with that. So, the T-Mobile project, not necessarily a local business partner, but the local T-Mobile people should be able to help with that if grant money can be used to help bring actual broadband into people's homes. So I think that we should look at cable providers, internet providers, more stable than cell phone providers, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it. I'm for the home internet providers. I'm all for it to be able to give them what they need. I just know the cost, and depending on where you're located at will determine if you can get what you need. Most average
how do we affect the rural areas?
Yeah,
some of the rural areas don't even have access at all.
Absolutely. Those are the parts that are hurt the most because those are the ones that are relying upon the cell phones. Those
Mhm.
rural areas are that rely upon the cell phones, and some places talk about if you got like $10,000 or $20,000, we'll come out there and we'll put some lines in for you. Well, if you got that kind of money, then life is sweet. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So those are the sort of the weights that I see is that the broadband access in the rural areas is really a travesty, and we definitely want to basically to bridge the gap. Final thought. I know your time is busy. Um, Outside of broadband access, classroom size, making sure that we're giving sort of an even fit to the public sector. What is another thing that you say, hey, I want to see get done that's not really being addressed strategically?
Okay, and one thing I want to address because of what you said. So Charleston County School District is a public school district. It is not there are not private schools in the district. Now there are 2 or 3 schools that are privately operated for some reason, and we're giving them money, and that doesn't make sense to me. Um, so I just want to make that differentiation that even though the charter schools and the magnet schools are choice schools, they're still public schools, and they need to stay that way. One of the things that I am really concerned about is the discrepancy in what's available to our kids. And like you mentioned before, some people don't have a choice to leave their neighborhood schools. And what I feel like is our system is forcing parents to choose a school just in order to get a quality education for their students. And I want to change that. That should not be happening. You should be able to get a quality education in every school in our district. That should be the bottom line. And so then if you want to choose a different methodology of learning, fine. But it's important that we provide what's needed for every child. And I want to do better than minimally adequate. So if we really listen to the school leadership teams at each individual school, I think that we'll do a better job of allocating our resources, even within the limited funding that we have. And I also think we have to look beyond that for funding, where we can say to the county officials and other municipalities, stop giving away our tax money with business incentives, with these financial tax incentives. We actually need that money. It's the only way the state allows us to raise money for our school operations. So stop. And then let's work with the state legislature and the Charleston legislative delegation to work on Act 388, which is preventing local districts from raising funds to fund their schools properly. So those are the
Absolutely.
things I think we need to work on.
I'm down for it. I think that's what we need to do. And for those that are listening to me right now, I want you to understand that we here want the best. I know November the 3rd, you have to make the right decision of who you want for the school board. So we pray heaven's best to you, Mrs. French. We know that you're a fighter, and we claim the fight still continues on. We know you're in a tough round, but we know you're going to come out, and we claim you have victory in the month of November.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your audience.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. God bless everyone. My name is Calvin of the Logan Power Show, nationwide, worldwide. We love you. We'll see you soon.